Welcome to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Shiva Patel. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, the NBA season is here. The preseason games are getting underway. This first game was last night, and there's many more preseason games today. They're going to be very exciting, and the season is going to be starting on October 19th, opening night, with the Lakers and the Warriors and the Bucks and the Nets. So thank you everybody for listening and tuning into this podcast. So in this episode, I will be talking about the main NBA storylines to watch out for coming into this season. There's five that I have in mind, and we're going to be talking about the storylines as we're about to commence on the 2021-2022 NBA season. And before I get started, everybody, be sure to subscribe to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports podcast on wherever you find your podcast and listen to them. It can be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports podcast. All right, so to get started, let's talk about the first NBA storyline that I'm going to be looking out for as the season is about to begin. And the first one is right now with the news in the NBA is where will Ben Simmons be traded to? Of course, we all know the story. Last year, Sixers were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. They made it all the way to the second round of the playoffs in the Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks, a game that they should have won, and Ben Simmons ended up passing up a layup on Trae Young, who gives up like 10 inches to him, and ended up passing up the layup because he was afraid to be aggressive on the offensive end and shoot free throws because throughout the series and then even the first round, the Wizards and the Hawks have been doing a hack of Ben, and he's been really struggling with his free throws. Of course, we all know that he does not shoot the ball. He doesn't even try to shoot the ball. He's just made the layups, dunks, and everything in the rim. So he was afraid to shoot that or take that dunk, and the Philly crowd just let him have it, and the Sixers lost as a result. Not only that Game 7, but the series. And Doc Rivers, at the end of the game, was asked if you can win a championship with Ben Simmons as your point guard, and he said, "I cannot answer that right now." And Joel Embiid, the star player of the Sixers, said that the turning point of the game was when we had a layup and we passed it up, and we made only one out of two free throws, referring to that Ben Simmons play. So that was a turning point for the 76ers because Ben Simmons ended up, going to the offseason very disgruntled, very frustrated with the Sixers. He didn't feel like he was getting the necessary support, and the Sixers did not appreciate their game, appreciate his game enough. And now, with training camp having started last Tuesday, it's been a week, and Ben Simmons has completely pulled it out of training camp. He's not even in Philadelphia. He's training in Los Angeles, refusing to show up to Sixers training camp. And at the beginning of the week, Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid said the right thing, like, hey, we know we can win a championship with Ben. Ben's a great player. We want Ben back. But then on Wednesday of last week, Joel Embiid, I think, really explained to the media how he really felt about Ben, saying that, hey, we've accommodated Ben. This organization has accommodated Ben and built this team around Ben. We had to sign Al Horford, or excuse me, give away Al Horford, in order to free up space for Ben to have the ball in his hands as well as Jimmy Butler. So Joel Embiid let his feelings felt about the whole situation and made the situation even worse. Ben Simmons said he has no intentions of ever putting on a Philadelphia 76ers jersey. He's willing to hold out. He does have a big contract though. He has 4 years left of $147 million left on his contract that he signed with the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's saying, I'm done with this franchise. I'm done with this organization. And right now the Sixers are struggling, trying to trade him because the rest of the league knows that deep down the Sixers do not really want Ben Simmons back, and then Ben Simmons does not want the Sixers back. So these other teams have leverage in these trade talks, and Daryl Morey, the GM for the Sixers, is asking for a king's ransom for Ben Simmons. He's asking for like a major star or stars, I should say, plural, major draft picks, and the other teams are just saying no. Ben Simmons has too many flaws. He doesn't shoot. He's not aggressive. Yes, we should appreciate the good about Ben Simmons. He's an awesome defender. He's made multiple first team All Defense selections. He's made two. He's made three All Star teams. He's a great great facilitator. He's great at attacking the basket downhill, getting to the rim. So he has a lot of strengths about his game, but his major weakness is shooting, and that's something you cannot have as a weakness if you want to be a superstar in today's NBA. So right now, Ben is right now not with the Sixers right now, and the Sixers are trying to get him back or try to restore his trade value, hoping that he'll come back to the team and that the team will be able to convince him to stay long term. But Ben said, nope, I'm not going to be playing again until I get traded to another team. So that's the whole situation there right now. The Sixers actually play their first preseason game tonight as we're recording this on Monday, October 4th, with no Ben Simmons. So again, the teams that are interested in Ben, there are a wide range of teams that are actually interested in him. It's the first of San Antonio Spurs, my team, Indiana Pacers, Minnesota Timberwolves, Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, the Golden State Warriors, the Sacramento Kings, even the Portland Trailblazers. So there's a lot of teams that are interested in him. But again, the reason that this deal has not gone done is because the asking price of Daryl Morey and the Sixers is just too much for other teams to stomach, even though Ben Simmons can be a future cornerstone franchise for their team because again he's only 25 years old. He's been putting in the work this offseason. We've seen the videos of him trying to shoot the ball, and actually his form and his follow through look excellent. I think it's just the mental thing that he does not want to go in a game and shoot in front of 50,000 fans. And I think he needs to overcome that mental block if he wants to continue to maximize his potential, because potential is the word right now for Ben Simmons. But if he wants to maximize that, then he needs to really shoot the ball, because again, he's made three All-Star performances, or three All-Star teams, two first team All NBA defensive selections. So he's no slouch. He's a great player. In the playoffs, he's been averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists a game. So I think Ben Simmons definitely has a lot of promise. And let's see whether this deal is going to get done. But that's the biggest storyline I want to talk about first, because that right now the saga is not going to end. And the real question is who's going to cave first, because Daryl Morey likes to get uncomfortable. He doesn't mind getting uncomfortable. So let's see how much Ben Simmons is willing to lose money because he's getting fined, and once the games start ramping up starting tonight, he's going to start losing game checks. So let's see who's going to cave in first, Ben Simmons or Daryl Morey. So that's the first storyline that we should keep track of as this NBA season is going to start very soon. All right, the second storyline is Kawhi Leonard, former Spur. The question is, will Kawhi Leonard come back and play this year? Of course, last year in the second round of the playoffs against the Utah Jazz, at the end of the game, oddly enough, when the game was already decided, the Clippers were up by like over 20 points, I believe. Kawhi Leonard had an ACL injury. It did not look that serious at first, but it ended up being serious. He got surgery. And I think right now, his status is in question right now. Next year, whether he can come back and play, and whether he's willing to come back and play, because we know that with Kawhi Leonard, that he does not, tolerate pain very well, and he's only plays if he's 100%. So, right now the Clippers have a really good team. They have a championship contending team, as they're going to move into their new arena pretty soon in California, there at the outskirts of Los Angeles. So will Kawhi Leonard come back and play? Because I think it just depends on the team and how he's feeling. Because we've heard reports that he's ahead on his rehab schedule. The Clippers like where he's at on his rehab schedule, but they're cautiously optimistic, and they're referencing that we still have a long ways to go, because Kawhi does not like to talk about his injury situation. He doesn't even talk in general to the media. So the Clippers are like walking on eggshells of what they can say about Kawhi Leonard. So I think that this is very interesting to watch, because yes, without Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers are a great team. They made a conference finals. They fell short of the Phoenix Suns, but Kawhi Leonard brings them over the top and makes them a championship contending team, and for the ability to win the NBA finals and hoist that trophy. So this is going to be huge. Again, I want to reiterate that the Clippers have very good players, of course, with Paul George, who really turned around his reputation of performing well in the playoffs last year. They bring back Reggie Jackson, who was a Mr. October, as they would say. He's really good, in the playoffs, and he made a lot of big shots and a lot of big plays. Marcus Morris, he's coming back. They have Nicholas Batum. They have Zubac. So the Clippers, Luke Kennard, Clippers have a great team and they can keep their head above water. But again, like I said, in order for them to reach their goal and reach Steve Ballmer's goal of winning a championship, they need Kawhi Leonard. So let's see if Kawhi Leonard is either going to come back late in the regular season or he's going to come back in the playoffs. That's something very interesting to see and to see if the Clippers can be able to continue to play well without Kawhi Leonard. All right, the third storyline, the upstart were Chicago Bulls, who made some huge splashes in free agency. They ended up signing DeMar DeRozan. They extended Zach LaVine, or they're going to extend Zach LaVine, I should say. They traded Larry Markkinen away, and now they have Lonzo Ball, former point guard for the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Chicago Bulls have a big three now, ladies and gentlemen, with Vucevic, LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan. And of course, DeMar DeRozan played for my San Antonio Spurs last year, made a lot of big plays. He's still the king of the mid-range. He's still an excellent player who can get to his spots, who's aggressive, can get to the foul line. He's not the greatest defender and he doesn't shoot threes, but he still averaged like 27 points a game last year, something crazy. So he could still dominate, and he'll be a great player to plug in with Zach LaVine, who we know he can score at all three levels. 3-point range, mid range, going to the rim. He's uber athletic. He's also a great defender. And then Vucevic down low, who has all the post moves, but he's also a stretch big who can carry the defender out on the perimeter, but also blow past the defender if he has to respect his 3-point shot. So I think that's going to be a great combination. And then Lonzo Ball, who at media day, Coach Billy Donovan said that he's going to play his more traditional point guard role, which he got stripped of with the Pelicans because they put the ball in Zion's hands and he was a point guard while Lonzo was playing off the ball at the two position. But now Coach Donovan said that Lonzo Ball is a traditional point guard. He's going to be bringing the ball up court and he's going to be setting up the offense, which I really like this because Zach LaVine's natural role, in my opinion, is the two. He's a shooting guard. But throughout his career with the Chicago Bulls, Zach LaVine has had to play the point guard, and he's not a point guard. He's a shooting guard, and he's a score first mentality who he can facilitate, but that's not a strength. So now Zach LaVine's going to be going to his primary and comfortable position where he can just dominate and just get buckets for the Chicago Bulls. And Lonzo Ball will put everybody in the right position. He's a great leader. He's a calming influence on the court. He does not commit a lot of turnovers. He plays at his own pace. It does not rush, and he will get these guys in the spots that they need to get and get them the ball where they need to get, where they can effectively make the shot. So that was a huge addition by the Chicago Bulls of signing Lonzo Ball because now they have their point guard of the future. So I think Lonzo Ball is going to do great things with the Chicago Bulls, and I'm very excited for this team. But the storyline was, can the Chicago Bulls rise in the East? So last year they fell short of the play-in tournament. Of course, I believe they would have made the play-in tournament if it wasn't for the injuries and COVID situation, with Zach LaVine. So this year, Chicago Bulls have expectations, and they're expected to be at least a top four seed in the Eastern Conference. And looking at the other teams, of course, we know the defending NBA champions, the Milwaukee Bucks, they're a given. Brooklyn Nets, the big threes coming back, they're a given. Philly was there, but before the Ben Simmons situation, I would put like a question mark with Philly. New York Knicks are kind of lurking a little bit. Atlanta Hawks, who made it to the conference finals, are there. But I believe that the Chicago Bulls can be better than the Atlanta Hawks, better than the Indiana Pacers, better than the New York Knicks, better than the Miami Heat, who's also one of the contenders in the Eastern Conference. I think the Chicago Bulls team personally can be a top three team in the Eastern Conference, just behind the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. I think they have that much talent. They're a great coach. The GM did a great job of putting all the right pieces together. They still have Kobe White, Patrick Williams, who had a great rookie year, who's going to be missing the first part of the season, but he's such a talented player. So I think the Chicago Bulls are for real. They're going to surprise a lot of people and put Chicago back on the map for the NBA and be a real contender in the East. They're not going to come out of the East, but they're at least going to give some competition to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. And it starts with their big three of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Lonzo Ball and Nikola Vucevic. So yeah, Lonzo Ball's not as much in the big three. My bad on that. It's more Nikola Vucevic, but they have like a mini big four. So those are the four main players. Plus they have other great complementary players And I really like that Coach Donovan really emphasized the defensive end on the floor. And I think that's what the Bulls are going to make their money on defense because they're going to turn a lot of teams over because they have some great defenders Vucevic, Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Patrick Williams. And that's going to lead to easy transition points for the offense because Coach Donovan said we need to play fast and we want to use our defense to create offense. And I think that's definitely what the Chicago Bulls are going to be doing this year and look out for the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference. All right, let's go to storyline number 4. Will the Brooklyn Nets win the title? So we know the story last year. They made it to the second round. They played 7 games with the Milwaukee Bucks, but unfortunately, Kevin Durant's shoe size was a little bit too big and over the line, and they ended up falling short to the Milwaukee Bucks, who went on to win the NBA championship. And of course, the Brooklyn Nets big three of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. I believe 3 of the top 10 players in the league currently, all on one team. Yeah, I know that's crazy. But they only played 13 games with one another last year. And that was partly due to COVID, injuries, and also James Harden was at the trade deadline, so he didn't get as much time to get acclimated with the team. This is going to be his first full year with the team. So I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to be this year primed to win the NBA championship, and they have to because they're trying to extend James Harden and Kyrie Irving. Though right now their future with the team is not really certain right now, but I believe they are going to be eventually going to be long-term Brooklyn Nets, but we don't know for sure. So they really have to maximize this window. And I think they will because this year, I know there's some distractions with Kyrie, about him, not getting vaccinated so far and him potentially missing 41 home games for the Nets this year because of the New York, mandates. But we'll see. And then some of the other off the court drama that always happens with Kyrie and always happens with him, whether his head is screwed on right or whether he's focused completely on the court. But when he's on the court, he's lethal. And we saw some clips of their training camp, which they're doing in San Diego, and Kyrie looked locked in, and the Brooklyn Nets looked locked in, and they have a deep roster, ladies and gentlemen. Not only do they have the big three, they have LaMarcus Aldridge, former Spur and former Longhorn, I should say, Blake Griffin, and Bruce Brown, Patty Mills, former Spur, who I think with the Kyrie situation is an excellent addition because he won the championship in 2014 with the Spurs. He was the longest tenure Spur. He's just a winner. He knows how to win, and I think he's going to bring those winning intangibles to this Brooklyn Nets team. And he hits big shots. He's not afraid to defend. He's a great facilitator, great leader on and off the court. He's just an all-around package. He's a perfect Brooklyn Nets player in addition that they brought in because of his relationship with Kevin Durant. They have Bruce Brown, Nicholas Claxton. So this Brooklyn Nets team is good. Oh, Joe Harris, I should say, who hopefully can get his shooting right this year, or at least I should say in the playoffs. So this Brooklyn Nets team, I believe, is going to be deeper. They're going to be more talented. They're going to be more experienced. They're going to learn from last year. Remember, Steve Nash was in his first year as a head coach and first time ever being an NBA coach. He was learning on the fly. He was learning the tendency of his players. Now, with 1 year of experience, he's going to be better. He's going to know his players better, and he's going to be better with the X's and O's. And they were even saying Steve Nash was very impressive last year. The way he composed himself, the leader that he is, the way that he talked to his players, the relationship building. That's the biggest thing with Steve Nash. He's a very personable guy and very good at relationship building. So I think that's going to carry dividends. Yes, I would like to see the big three play more than 13 games this year. Get that chemistry going a little bit more. Get used to one another, know where they like their spots, where they like the ball. In certain spots. James Harden, I think a big addition was he's the new point guard for the Brooklyn Nets, and Kyrie's playing his more natural position at the two. Kevin Durant's at the three, and LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. So I think this Nets team is experienced, they're primed, they're ready. And I think if they continue to improve, because offense is not a problem. We know what Brooklyn Nets can do on the offensive end of the floor, but if they continue to improve on the defensive end, at least be competent, like all they got to be is just middle of the pack of defense. This team is going to beat everybody because they have just too much scoring power. And even in games where another team is just crazy hot and they decided, okay, we're not going to play defense today. Well, you had, like I said, 3 of the top 10 players in the NBA where you can easily outscore everybody. You have great role players that are willing to sacrifice and will and have the ball ready in their spots. They're going to be having wide open shots, ladies and gentlemen, because all the defense's focus is going to be on the big three. So all Joe Harris needs to do is catch and shoot. Bruce Brown, Nicholas Claxton just needs to catch lobs. Blake Griffin needs to shoot threes, make mid-range shots, and just make putbacks and layups off rebounds. This going to make the other role players' lives so much easier because they're playing with the big three Nets. And I think that's going to be huge. And I think the Nets are primed to come out of East this year and hoist up the trophy. All right, let's talk about our last storyline. And we cannot talk about the NBA without talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, who, of course, have the most championships in NBA history. And they've had a very busy offseason after a disappointing year last year. They lost in the first round to the Phoenix Suns in 6 games to Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. Of course, LeBron James was great last year. The older he gets, it seems like the better that he gets. But Anthony Davis has been really struggling with injury problems and inconsistencies, and that's what really plagued their season last year. Well, they're back. Anthony Davis is healthy. LeBron is healthy. They've had a full offseason, more rest time, and they made some very interesting accusations. I should say, free agent accusations. They got Rajon Rondo back, Dwight Howard back from that championship team in the bubble. They got Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, of course, Russell Westbrook. He's a big fish that they landed in free agency. But the question is about the fit with Russell Westbrook, because we know Russell Westbrook's a great player. There's no denying that. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best players right now in the NBA, but he has some deficiencies. Yes, he is a 9-time All-Star, 9-time first-team All-NBA selection, 2017 NBA MVP, and then 2-time scoring leader. So he's talented, but he also has a lot of flaws, ladies and gentlemen. He's very ball dominant and he takes horrendous shots. He's very turnover prone. He could be sped up and he makes questionable decisions at best. And he shoots very poorly in the 30s percent from both field goal percentage, from just in general on shooting, and then 30% from three. So those are not good numbers. And I question the fit with Russell Westbrook with the Lakers, because we know from his time at OKC with Kevin Durant, and then when Kevin Durant left, and even his time with the Wizards, Russell Westbrook likes to have the ball in his hands. He likes to be the run the show. He likes to get everybody involved, and he likes to score for himself. But because of that, he has a lot of turnovers and he makes a lot of bad decisions. And yes, he is the king of the triple doubles, but he's been getting those triple doubles on very bad teams. So now that he's on a team that has two of the best players in the NBA, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and now has championship aspirations, how is that going to impact Russell Westbrook's game? Because again, he's ball dominant, he's not a good shooter, and he's turnover prone. And Russell Westbrook has been playing at the point guard position, but those of you that watch the Lakers know that LeBron James is the point guard. He's the best passer in basketball. He's the Lakers' de facto point guard. He's the 6'9" point guard. So that means that Russell Westbrook would have to migrate to the two position, which is the shooting guard position, and play off the ball. So can he play off the ball? How effective will he be off the ball? Will he continue to take bad shots? Because Lakers, like I said, with all these free agents acquisitions, they're going to be spreading the wealth around. Russell Westbrook's no longer going to be the guy that gets to shoot all the shots on a bad OKC team, get to shoot most of the shots on a Wizards team and share it with Bradley Beal. Now he's going to be asked to be a team player, share the ball, play defense, do the intangibles in order to win. Can Russell Westbrook do that? Will he be willing to do that? Because if he's not and his headspace is not in the right place, that's going to really affect the Lakers negatively in the locker room and on the court. Yes, Russell Westbrook's a great leader and a great locker room presence, but he's also a very individual player who cares about his stats more than winning. And I think he needs to have more of a team approach if the Lakers want to be successful. Because yes, Russell Westbrook is one of the best players in the NBA, but again, he's flawed. And will he be willing, to only take like 8 to 10 shots a game? And will he attack the basket? Because now he's going to be at the two position. I do not want him to settle for threes because that's a win for the defense. The defense would be like, okay, you're below or you're low 30%. Yeah, we'll invite you. Take as many threes as you want. Knock yourself out. But will Russell Westbrook force the defense to respect him and attack the basket? That's his strength. And he can shoot free throws. He's not been shooting free throws that well the last couple of years, but I've seen it. He can't shoot free throws, but his strength is attacking the basket. So I think he needs to attack the basket and not settle for as many threes in order for the Lakers to be successful because he's going to be a big piece to their system. And the Lakers essentially have a big three with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook. So those were the negatives about Russell Westbrook. Let's talk about the positives and what Russell Westbrook will bring to the Lakers. First of all, he plays 100 miles per hour. That's a good thing. He plays very hard. He has an endless motor. He will bring tenacity. He'll bring energy. That will feed off on the other players. He will play hard on both ends of the court. He'll dive for loose balls, get rebounds. He'll do whatever it takes in order to get his stats. So I think that's going to be contagious, and I think Coach Vogel is going to really like that because he's going to set a great example for LeBron and AD, and then the young guys to continue to play hard on both ends of the floor, no matter what the score is and no matter what your stats are. So I think that's going to be a good thing that Russell Westbrook's going to, bring to the Lakers. He did say that he'll do anything it takes to win because again, he's had all these, accomplishments. Again, I'll say it again: nine-time All-Star, 9-time first team All NBA, 2-time scoring leader, 2017 NBA MVP. What does he have to show for that? Zero championships. So I think he's motivated because the last time that he was in the NBA Finals was he was with the Thunder, who were basically the baby Thunder at that time in 2012, and that's when they had Westbrook, Durant, and Harden, and they ended up playing against LeBron and the Miami Heat, and ended up losing that series in 5 games. That's the last time Russell Westbrook has been to the NBA Finals, and that's the last time, or yeah, the last time he's been out of the second round was with Kevin Durant, and that was, I believe, in like 2012 also. So it's been a while since Russell Westbrook has advanced far in the playoffs. Again, he's been on this bad OKC team. He's been on a below average Wizards team. So I think he's very hungry to win. I think he's very determined to win. He's going to be back at home. He grew up from the LA area. In the LA area, he went to UCLA. So coming back home, I think it's a big thing for him, and to put the Lakers jersey on and represent his home city. I think that's going to be something that's going to really resonate with him and impact him. So let's see if he can use all that and bring a positive contribution to the LA Lakers because but even though he's not been out of the playoffs, he has vast experience, and I think he'd be a great leader, and he'll teach the Lakers how to play hard. So I think that's going to be a big thing to watch. Russell Westbrook's fit with the LA Lakers, and all the Lakers games again are going to be must-see TV. They start opening night against the Golden State Warriors, who again are trying to come back, and that's another little storyline that I can get into. That wasn't one of my five, but the Golden State Warriors, will they be a contender in the East or in the West? Because they have Steph Curry, they have Andrew Wiggins. Klay Thompson right now is not going to be coming back till probably January at the earliest. His status is still in question, even though he's looked really good in practice. They have two rookies, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, who they drafted in the first round. They have former second overall pick of last year, James Wiseman, who battled injuries but is a year older and more experienced and was able to get in the weight room. So the Warriors have the necessary pieces, but can they bring that together and compete in a very stacked Western Conference? That remains to be seen. So there's so many storylines, so much to look forward to this NBA season. You would want to stay here to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports podcast, where I'm going to be releasing episodes all throughout the season, giving my thoughts about different teams, reacting to the games, reacting to players' performances. So be sure to subscribe to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. So again, opening night is October 19th. It's a doubleheader. The Brooklyn Nets against the NBA champions Milwaukee Bucks. Then the nightcap is going to be the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors on October 19th. So I will be back after those games to recap what I saw from the teams, from the players, and then also to give to look ahead to some of the other games that are going on because Wednesday's October 20th is going to be another stacked day of NBA games. So again, the NBA is back. The preseason games have gotten started, so a lot to look forward to. It's going to be a fun season. Fans are going to be back in the stands. It's going to be crazy. There's a lot of great contenders, a lot of great teams. So again, keep it here to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports podcast. And for your host, Shivam Patel, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.